Hello again, everybody. Today we are going to use our time together to brush up on our algebra skills. Okay, so we'll start by doing 1 and 3 together, and then from there we will do the evens together in this video. So for number 1, 2x plus 3 equals 11, the first thing I need to do is move that 3. So I get 2x equals 8. Okay, then I can divide by 2, and 8 divided by 2 is 4, so x equals 4. For number 6, I'll start by subtracting 4. Okay, so I get 2 equals 1/3 x. And then from there, I've got a couple different options. The easiest is to multiply by the reciprocal of 1/3, and the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3. So I will multiply both sides by 3 to cancel out that fraction. And 6 equals x is my answer. Okay, now number 4. I've got a couple different options here. I could distribute that 2, or since it's 2 times parentheses, and that's it, I can actually divide both sides by 2 here and get x minus 4 equals 1. Okay, now I could have distributed the 2 instead, and I'd have 2x minus 8 equals 2, and I could solve from there, and it would be exactly the same thing. Okay, so I'll add 4 to both sides, and I get x equals 5. Okay, number 6, let's distribute in this one. Since we did the division on this one, let's do distribution on this one. So I'll distribute this -3. So I get 2, and then -3 times 2 is -6. -3 times -x is positive 3x equals 8. 2 minus 4 is -4. So I'm just combining these like terms. Okay, then I can add 4 to both sides. And I get 3x equals 12. And I can divide both sides by 3, and I get x equals 4. Okay, and we're just going to continue on with evens from this point forward. Okay, so I've got 18 equals x squared plus 2. So I will subtract 2 from both sides and get 16 equals x squared. Okay, now we have to get rid of this squared. The opposite of squared is a square root. But I want to point out, when I've got an exponent of 2, that means there are 2 solutions. Okay, so when I take a square root here, what I really get is plus or minus that square root, and I'll show you why in just a moment. The square root of 16 is 4, so I get x equals plus or minus 4. And that is because if I put a 4 right here, I get 4 squared is 16, plus 2 is 18. If I put a -4 here, -4 squared is also positive 16, plus 2 is 18. So a positive 4 and a -4 both work as solutions. Okay, on to number 10. Okay, so for number 10, x plus 2 squared really means x plus 2 times x plus 2. Okay, so I need to distribute this. I get x squared plus 2x plus another 2x plus 4 equals x squared plus 32. Okay, I see some like terms here. X squared plus 4x plus 4 equals x squared plus 32. Okay, now let's subtract x squared from both sides, and we'll notice that it actually cancels on both sides. So the x squared terms are just all gone. So in this same step, let's do -4 on both sides. So I get 4x equals 28. And then I divide by 4. And 28 divided by 4 is 7. Okay, with that we will move on to page 2. Number 12, solve by factoring. Okay, so to solve by factoring, I've got a lead coefficient of 1, which means that I'm going to need two numbers that multiply to this c term, so two numbers that multiply to 8 and add up to the b, this b term here, which is 6. So two numbers that multiply to make 8 and add up to 6. And I think those two numbers are going to be 4 and 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 plus 2 is 6. So my factored form is x plus 4 times x plus 2 equals 0. Now when two things multiply to make 0, that means either this thing has a value of 0 or this thing has a value of 0. So I'm going to set each equal to 0. X plus 4 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. When I subtract this 4, I get x is negative 4. When I subtract this 2, I get x is negative 2. So two solutions that satisfy this equation are when x is negative 4 and when x is 2. Number 14. This time the lead coefficient is not 1. The lead coefficient is 2. And 2 times 15 is 30. So I actually need two numbers that multiply to make 30. Okay, those same two numbers need to add up to 11. Multiply to 30 and add to 11, and I think those numbers are going to be 6 and 5. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 plus 5 is 11. So I'm going to split up this 11x into a 6x and a 5x. So we'll go with 2x squared plus 6x plus 5x plus 15 equals 0. So notice I haven't changed any values. 6x and 5x add up to 11x. So I've just taken that 11 and split it up into 6x plus 5x. Now I'm going to factor by grouping. So I'll group these two together, and I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor, which is 2x. So I'm going to factor a 2 and an x out. Okay, when I divide this first term by 2x, I get x, and 6x divided by 2x is 3. So I have x plus 3 here. Okay, then I'm going to group these together. Whatever this sign is, I want to factor this sign out. It's positive, so I'm going to factor out a positive. If this was negative, I would factor out a negative. Okay, and then 5x and 15, the biggest number that goes into both is 5, so I'll factor out positive 5. So 5x divided by positive 5 is x. 15 divided by positive 5 is 3. Okay, and now I can factor the greatest common factor out of these two terms, and that is x plus 3. So my factored form is x plus 3 times 2x plus 5. Okay, and now I can set each term equal to 0 just like I did up here. I'm sorry, each factor, not term. So we get x plus 3 equals 0. And when I subtract 3, I get x equals negative 3. So there's one of my solutions. And then 2x plus 5 equals 0. When I subtract 5, I get 2x equals negative 5. And when I divide by 2, I get x equals negative 5 over 2. And that is my other solution. Okay, next we are going to solve using the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula, you may remember, x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so we've got a is 1, b is negative 5, c is negative 14. So x equals the opposite of b, positive 5, plus or minus the square root, and we'll write in that symbol later, of b squared, so that's negative 5 squared, minus 4 times a, 1, times c, negative 14. Okay, and that's under a square root, all over 2a, 2 times 1. Okay, so if we plug some things into our calculator here, we might be able to get through this a little bit shorter time than doing it all by hand. So I'm going to type in negative 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 4. Okay, and that is not correct. That should have been negative 14, so I'm going to have to go back into that and change that to a negative 14, and that is 81. Okay, so I have 5 plus or minus the square root of 81 over, and then 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, 5 plus or minus, and if you don't know the square root of 81, you can type it in your calculator. So we've got second and then the square root button. 81 is 9. Okay, so the square root of 81 is 9 over 2. So now we've got two things to solve here. We've got 5 plus 9 divided by 2. 5 plus 9 is 14. Divided by 2 is 7. And then 5 minus 9, which is negative 4, divided by 2, and that is negative 2. There are my two solutions. See that right there? Told me I should get two solutions for this. Okay, number 18, once again, two solutions. This time we will solve by completing the square. In order to complete the square, a has to be 1, and it is. Okay, the next thing is we're going to move this 51 to the other side like this, so we get x squared plus 14x, and where I have this c term here, I'm going to leave a blank, equals positive 51, negative moved over becomes positive, and whatever I add in for this c value here, I'm going to have to add into this side as well. Okay, so we've moved the 51 over and we made room for a new c term, but whatever I add here, I'm going to have to add here also. Now, how do I get that c term? Okay, the new c is always found by doing b squared divided by 2. Okay, so b squared divided by 2. That's not right. It's b divided by 2 squared. b divided by 2 squared. So 14 divided by 2 squared. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And 7 squared is 49. So I'm going to add 49 here and here. Okay? Now here's why we did that. Now we have what's called a square trinomial. That's why it's called completing the square. I made a square trinomial. So if I was to factor this, I would be looking for two numbers that multiply to 49 and add to 14. And those two numbers are 7 and 7. Okay? So I'm going to have x plus 7 times x plus 7, which is the same as x plus 7 squared, equals 100. Okay? Now, shortcut to finding these numbers, whatever I got right here, b divided by 2 is 7. That goes right there every single time. Okay? So I've got x plus 7 squared equals 100. Now I can take a square root, and when I do that, I get plus or minus on this right side, while I cancel the squared on the left side. X plus 7 equals plus or minus, and the square root of 100 is 10. Okay, now I'm going to move this 7 right here. and I get x equals negative 7 plus or minus 10. So what's negative 7 plus 10? That is 3. What's negative 7 minus 10? Negative 17. Okay, on to our last page. 2 more problems to solve. Solve each system of equations by elimination. Okay, so I can choose to eliminate the x's or y's. I'm going to go ahead and do the y's. And I'll do that by multiplying this top equation by negative 2. And I'll rewrite it down here. So negative 2 times negative x is 2x. Negative 2 times 7x is positive 14y. And then negative 2 times 14 is negative 28. Okay, so when I combine these will now cancel. Negative 4x plus 2x is negative 2x, and 28 minus 28 is 0. And when I divide by negative 2, I get x equals 0. So there's my x value. I will plug that into this top equation. Negative 0 minus 7y equals 14. So that's negative 7y equals 14. And when I divide by negative 7, I get y equals negative 2. Okay, so that means that these are 2 lines that will intersect at the point 0, negative 2. And last, we'll solve by substitution. So I'm going to take this value of y and put it right there. 2x plus 4 times negative 8x equals 0. I'll distribute, so 2x and then 4 times negative 8. Okay, so if you're not sure, you can type that in your calculator. 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. So minus 32x. Okay, that really didn't need distribution over that since that's one term, so let's just pretend that never happened. So equals 0. Okay, so 2x minus 32x is negative 30x equals 0. And when we divide by negative 30, we get x equals 0. Okay, now I'll plug that in right here. So y equals negative 8 times 0. So y is 0. So that means these 2 lines intersect at the origin. The intersection is at the point 0, 0.